Hello everyone, so I'm back with another video, and the question that I'll be solving today is eat the chip that came to Codeforces around 920 div 3, and the problem is E. In this question, Elias and Bob are playing a game on a board, and there are H rows and W columns. The chip that Elias is initially located is at coordinate XAYA, and for Bob is XBYB. Now, on their turn, they are just moving. For allies, it is moving in the downward direction, either at the diagonal left, diagonal right, or at the just bottom, or in the bob. As you can see, the black one, it can move to the upward right, upward left, or just at the upward direction. So that is for the bob. Yeah. Now, allies could win the game if he places his chip above Bob, and Bob would win the game if he places his chip above allies. So, in that condition, if both the players are playing optimally, then we need to find out who would win the game, or there is a draw or not. So, let's say Lai sat somewhere over here, and Bob. No, Elias is over here. Elias, Elias could move in the downward direction, so Elias is over here, and Bob is. So, so at the first turn that Elias is taking, he could defeat Bob because he could place his chip above Bob. So Elias would win the game. And if Bob is not there, Bob is over here. Then Elias would be taking his first turn. Now Bob could place his chip above Elias. So in this case, Bob could win the game. So when the difference between themselves, like Elias at the second one and Bob is at the fourth one. So the difference between them is even, then Bob could win the game. If the difference between Elias and Bob is odd, then only Elias could win the game. Because the first turn is taken by Elias only. So if it is odd, then only Elias could win the game. Because the first turn would be taken by Elias, then Bob. And if it is odd, then only after that Elias could defeat Bob. So if it is even, then Elias would be taking one turn, and after that Bob could defeat Elias. So when the difference between Elias and Bob is even, then there is a chance that Bob could win the game. If there is a difference between them is odd, then only Elias could win the game. Now, if Elias is over here and Bob is above Elias or equals to Elias, then there would be a draw perfectly because Elias could move only in the downward direction and Bob could move only at the upward direction. So if Elias and Bob at the same row or Elias is below Bob, then there would be a draw for sure. Now, how do I know that if the difference between the row is odd, then is Elias would win the game or not? So let's say there is a chance that Elias would win the game, and there is no chance that Bob could win the game because the difference between the rows is odd. So if it is odd, then Bob would try to be away from Elias. So if Bob would try to move at the right direction, then if he touches the boundary, then he will be moving this direction. So Bob will try to be move away from Elias, or he could move in the left direction. And Elias will try to catch Bob because in this case, Elias could win the game. So we need to find that the number of steps that both will be moving to meet each other. Like to meet each other, the difference between the rows is two, not two. If Bob is, let's say Elias is over here. Now the difference between the rows is three. Difference between the rows is 3, and that is odd. So, so step that Bob could take is 3 by 2. That is one step because Elias would be over here somewhere at this row. Then Bob would be taking his turn, and then Elias would be so it's 3 by 2. The difference between their rows divided by 2 is the number of steps that Bob will be taking, and the number of steps that Elias would be taking is the difference between the rows minus the steps that Bob is taking. Hence, Bob will be moving in the left or at the right. So the number of steps taken by Bob would be 1 in this case, and Elias would be taking 2 steps to meet each other at some common row. Now, will Elias be able to catch Bob? How do I know that Bob is? If Bob could reach to a column in which Elias could not be able to reach, let's say Bob, if the column that Bob is staying, let's say it's 2, so 2 plus the number of steps is 3. So the minimum of the boundary, because the last column that Bob could reach is the boundary. So minimum of the boundary plus the column that Bob is currently staying plus step, like the minimum of Bob's column plus the step that Bob could take, the minimum of the column Bob is currently staying plus the step that Bob could take, comma the boundary. So that is the last column that Bob could reach. Or if he tries to move to the left, then it would be the maximum of the first comma BC minus step. That is a Bob's column minus the step that Bob could reach. So this, and now for Elias this will be the same, that but the number of steps that Elias could take is step plus 1. So the same thing would be, so if Bob could reach somewhere far away that Elias could not reach, then in that case Elias would not be able to catch Bob. So we need to check that if Bob is somewhere where Elias couldn't reach, like if the that minimum of Bob's column plus step comma W is greater than the minimum of W comma Elias column plus step, like the column that Elias could reach is lesser than the column that Bob could reach, then that's the case that Elias couldn't win the game. Or if the column that Bob could reach from the left and the Elias could reach, if the column that Bob could reach is lesser than the column that Elias could reach, then in that case also Elias would not be able to win the game. So we need to consider this two condition for Elias to win the game, and this would be same for Bob. If the difference between Elias and Bob row is even, then we would be considering that there is a column that Elias could reach and Bob would not be able to reach that column. Bob is somewhere before that column. So that's it. Like let me explain the code also, then that will be more clear. So I'm taking that just x1 y1 x2 y2, that this is the for Elias and this is for the Bob. Then it will have the row value as somewhere greater, something greater value. So if it is less than equals to 0, that Elias and Bob, Elias is below Bob, then Elias will be moving in the downward direction and Bob would be moving in the upward direction. So both cannot meet each other. So in that case, it's draw. Now I'm just taking, if it is odd, then there is a chance that Elias could win the game. Yeah, then I'm taking that minimum of the boundary or the step that Bob could take. If it is less than or equals to the step that Elias could take, is it is less than the column that Elias could reach, and for the left also is, if the column that Bob could reach is greater than the column that um, Elias could reach, then only Elias could win the game. So from the left also Elias would be able to catch, and from the right also Elias would be able to catch Bob. Then only Elias would win the game. And same I did for Bob. If Bob would be able to catch from the right as well as from the left, then only Bob would win the game. If both the condition doesn't meet, then there will be a draw. So that's it. I'll be sharing the code. Thank you for watching. I hope you like the video.